Hey mama, welcome. I'm Naomi, and today I want to share with you some yoga poses that you can do to not only prepare for labor and delivery, but to actually do during your labor and maybe even during the delivery of your baby. So these are poses that I have used in my own 2 birth experiences and that I'm planning on using with baby number 3. These are yoga poses and movements that I have suggested to students and clients who have used them to great success, to feeling better, not only again in preparation for birth, but also throughout the labor and delivery process. So I hope these give you some good things to work on, to practice, and just to think about as you move towards your own experience of labor and delivery. So what I have with me for props, I have a chair. Okay, just to give you an idea of something that you can use. You can also use walls, tables, all kinds of things. So if you don't have a folding chair, no big deal, right? But this is what I'm going to use as a prop to show you some of the things that you can do. So all that said, coming up to stand, please. So the first thing that you're going to do is take your legs nice and wide apart, turn your feet out slightly, bend your knees. And this is often called like goddess pose, or, I sometimes call it sumo pose, but I really think of this as like the ultimate mama birthing pose. Okay, so it's a nice deep squat, really, really good for toning your pelvic floor, which you want in preparation for birth. It's one of my very favorite poses to practice in the final weeks before giving birth. And I just love practicing it in general. It's really good for strengthening your legs. It's really good, again, for toning your pelvic floor. It's good for opening your hips. You can shift a little bit side to side like I am. Just go back and forth. And when you're prepping for your birth, as opposed to being in the birthing experience, when you're prepping for it, one of the things you can do is just stand up and lower down. Just do a little bit of this, up and down. And think of it less as bending your knees and more about lowering your pelvis down and lifting it up. All right, so hips down, hips up. Hips down, hips up. So it's less about the knee bend and more about really rooting through the center of your pelvis and then pulling up. Okay, so just a few more times, doing these really wide mama squats. Okay, and then place your hands on your thighs. And something that I did, early on during my labors with both of my kids, the ones that I've done already so far, is just really to lengthen shoulder forward. This is my left shoulder going forward, to stretch through my low back on the left side, and then alternate. The right shoulder goes forward, and just to lengthen a little bit here. If you need support, you can also do this with a chair, and just press into the chair with your hands and stretch your low back a little bit from side to side. It feels really good, even if you're not in labor. Just a really good, nice low back stretch. Okay, now you can let go of that, come back up to stand still with wide legs. Turn your right foot in, your left foot out. Firm up your right leg, bend your left knee. This is Warrior 2, and this is another really phenomenal one for prepping for birth, right? Really great pose, again, to tone your pelvic floor, to strengthen your legs. But I'll tell you what, one of my very dearest friends, also a yoga teacher, who also has, 2 kids, in her first birth experience, she was in labor for like 40 some odd hours. I mean, like really seriously, it was an epic labor. And sometime in the middle of this labor, a few times, like when she was just feeling like she couldn't, manage the contractions anymore, she just like popped right down into Warrior 2. Arms out to the sides. So not only is it a really great pose for birth preparation, you can straighten your left leg, turn your left foot in, turn your right foot out, and again, firm up your left leg, bend your right knee. But it's also apparently a really great pose for when you're in labor. I can't say that I've tried it myself, but I know that she did it and it felt really good for her. So highly recommend this one. Warrior 2 is a pretty standard, really basic, really simple. Back leg is straight, front leg is bent, hips go down, pelvic floor toning, legs are strengthening, hips are opening. It's kind of win-win-win with this one. Straighten your leg. Now, as always, it's one that you can do if you really needed to. You could put your hand right on a chair, or you could hold onto a wall behind you. So if you need more support there, particularly if you are in labor, then I highly recommend that. Okay? So the next one is what I like to think of as a seated cat-cow. And this one you could do on the edge of your bed, no matter where you are in labor. This is a little bit more for the in labor sort of situation. Whether you're at home and sort of managing contractions early on, or whether you are, at the hospital and you need to sit down and rest, but they're still kind of coming and they're not super close together yet. You can do a little cat-cow here, just sitting right up on the edge of the chair, feet firmly on the floor, and you press your hands into your thighs and you round back, and then stretch forward. And round back, and stretch forward. And that rounding back too, you can do what you did in the Mama Goddess pose. Just lengthen one shoulder forward so you get a good stretch through your back. Lengthen the other one forward. Just get a good stretch there. And just move in ways that feel really good here. Okay. So just doing a little bit of that cat-cow action in the chair, really pressing into your thighs, because the pressing into your thighs is going to help root your hips down, right? Just give you a little bit more length through your low back when you're starting to feel just some tension and compression in your low back as you go into labor. So whether or not you have back labor, because that can sometimes, be the pressure in your back, a lot of times it's just that feeling of crampiness when labor is starting, and you just want a little relief. That can give you a little relief. Now here's another one that can give you a little bit of relief. It's a bit more active, and it's just a wall sit, right? So the wall sit, it's the same idea. You're at the wall and just rounding your back against it, really stretching and arching. And this is one that I did a lot when I was in labor with my second. With my first, first babies are really different, I gotta say, a little bit more primal. And it was pretty intense. And, a lot of what I did was just more like trying to get through it. But this one I definitely employed in my second labor, just sitting up against a wall and rounding my back against the wall and then arching. Okay, and I'll show it here too. I'm just going to move the chair out of the way so you can see against a wall. It's the same idea, right? Rounding so you can see what's really happening, and arching. Rounding and arching. Okay, round. Ooh. And arch. Okay? Now, since we're at this wall, I'm going to show you one that I used in both of my labors, even the first really intense one and the second one. And this is forearms at the wall. So what I did is I just placed my forearms up at the wall, and I started pretty close. Back your feet up a little bit until you've got this big stretch through your middle and low back. It's less about kind of hanging in your shoulder joints, more about bending your knees and really stretching back through your thighs, letting your belly hang. Okay, this is a little bit better than doing something like a puppy dog on the floor. And I'll explain why in just a sec. But you can also do this on a chair. And I'll just show how you can do it on a chair here too. So if you have a chair like this that's a little bit more of like a folding chair where you can reach the back, it's the same idea. Right, just trying to create a little bit of an arch through your back and stretch. Okay, now the reason that you want to do that as opposed to like this, which is more of that like butt high in the air, chest down, is that that's actually going to slow your labor down, okay? Because instead of working with those natural forces of gravity, which is trying to get the baby out, you're kind of tilting the opposite direction and preventing that, right? Keeping baby moving a little bit more in and up. Okay, so if you really want labor to progress, instead of lifting your butt high into the air, try to keep your butt down, right? Keep it lower to the ground and keep your arms up a little bit higher, and you can get that same back stretch that's going to feel really good without being lowered to the ground. Okay, so another way that you can use the chair, since we're over here, is actually to do a cat-cow pose that's a bit higher up. So if I have my hands on the very edge of the chair, I can push and do this in a kneeling position if I really feel like I can't get up or if I don't want to get all the way down on the ground. And again, this is helping me work a little bit more with gravity so that even though there is a bit of a tilt to my pelvis, I'm still anchoring down instead of butt high, right? So just a little cat-cow here. And it feels really good. Whether you're in labor or not, it feels really good. So it's just a little bit of movement for your pelvis. And you can do that same length through your side body here, really push into the edge of the chair and stretch. And that can feel really good too. Okay, and then the last two poses that we're going to do are really simple and really similar. Okay, so you can come up to stand, and I'm going to get this blanket out of the way so I have a bit more space. But it's really just holding onto the back edge of the chair, and you can think of this as like a chair downward facing dog. You can do this at a wall as well. But it's really just, bend your knees and stretch your hips back. And give yourself a little length. Ideally, you would be a bit higher up so that you're not like tilting down. So ideally, you're a bit higher up. This chair is just a little bit low. But then you can also, especially if your back is really bothering you, can step 1 foot forward and just root your hips back. So my right leg is forward, left leg is back. Both heels are on the floor, and I'm just stretching here. Okay, and then other leg forward. So left leg goes forward, right leg back. And again, you can do this at a table, at a wall, on your hospital bed, on your actual bed if you deliver at home. You can do this against your car if you're pausing. If you're going somewhere, if you're on the way to the hospital and all of a sudden you're hit with a contraction, you can do it at the car. I mean, these are things that you can pretty much take with you anywhere and do anywhere. And they're really, really simple to do. You don't really need any props at all. You don't need anything fancy. You just need the opportunity to give your body a little bit of space so that you can go through those contractions, so that you can move through the process of labor and delivery and just feel a little bit more steady, a little bit more in control, and just a little bit more connected and in tune with your body and your baby. So I hope that these poses for labor and delivery are useful for you. I hope that they prove useful for you not only in birth preparation, but when you are actually in labor and going through the birth process. If you have any questions at all about any of these poses, please feel free to leave me a comment in the comments below. And I would love to hear how they work out for you. So please, please, please let me know how it goes for you. You can leave me a comment in the comments below and just tell me if you used them when you were experiencing your own birth and delivery. So thanks for tuning in, and I cannot wait to hear how these help you in your experience. Okay, until then, bye.